Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 15th of February, comes to you from Brunei. I'm on my way back to London, Singapore next week, and I've just stopped here in this small oil nation for a couple of days. And so I'm slightly internet challenged, but just looking at my system, I thought I'd just share what I'm seeing in the markets at the moment. So we're seeing the dollar actually just having found support there on the weekly chart a few weeks ago. Remembering this is the weekly, daily, and 60-minute, my long-term, medium-term, and short-term view of the markets with the corresponding point and figure targets. So we're seeing here the dollar finding support, not enough to change the medium term. We're below the cloud is bearish, above the cloud is bullish. So long-term still bullish, having pulled all the way back to the cloud, but the medium term is bearish. And the short term, we're just in a really bit of a range here. We've got some new upside targets. Neither of them are activated. That's what we're waiting for to confirm that the dollar might go higher. Of course, we had inflation numbers out in the US, not a great change there, and also in the UK from 10.5% to 10.1%. So inflation looking more stubborn and less transient, to quote the Bank of England sort of quote last year. Looking at the euro, we're seeing here that of course, is just hitting some cloud resistance, cloud support for the dollar, cloud resistance for the euro, but the medium-term trend is bullish, having crossed there in October. And we don't really have any more upside targets. We will get a new upside target here, but still long-term, we do have downside targets there for the euro. Looking at sterling, we've pulled right the way back to 120 against the dollar, so that dollar strength just showing through this last couple of days. And if we look at sterling against the euro, we're seeing that weaker as well. We're sitting at 112.71, back below the cloud on the short term, having risen up to 113.50. And if we look at Bitcoin, we're sitting at $22,000, fairly static, having got back above 20,000. We're just sitting very much in range there. Short-term upside, we've got an upside target only 2% higher, and a shortage of medium and long-term targets to the upside as well. The short-term targets, the longer-term downside targets still hanging over us. Looking at the NASDAQ, we were up 0.7% yesterday, so we're seeing a little bit of a recovery there on the back of those inflation numbers in the US. And looking at the futures, we're seeing today that we're down slightly, little change. The market's set to open flat. FTSE future is also relatively flat, just nudging that 8,000 level. We're not quite there. We've got just under 100 points to go, but we are in new all-time high territory, so that's quite interesting. The DAX in Germany is down very slightly. Markets are pretty subdued, really. Looking at Tokyo, we were down 1/3% there. And if we look at the Sensex in India, we're up 1%, still looking pretty strong on those medium and long-term charts with those upside targets. The Aussie market was down 1%, so just looking weaker there, and short-term just below the cloud. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. Looking at gold, we're sitting at 1834, so that's actually quite a pullback. Short-term bearish. The cloud transition just taking time. We have got this pullback, so that's going to be quite interesting to see whether we can then generate a new upside target. But for the moment, we've got targets 2.5% and 7% lower, so gold looking weaker. Silver actually fallen right the way back to under $21.50, having nudged the 25 level. We just couldn't hold on to that, so not looking so good for silver, and we've got quite a lot of downside targets there. So precious metals still taking their time. And if we look at US 10-year yields, they're sitting at 3.73%. They ticked up yesterday on those inflation numbers, those CPI numbers in the US. Hit 3.8%. We still have yield curve inversion, of course, the 2-year yield sitting some 70, 80 basis points higher. But the interesting thing is, short term, we've got this upside target. We've got 1 to 381. That was the level. We didn't quite get there, but we still have this 399 target if we can go higher, and it'll be interesting to see if we undo some of these downside targets. We've still got this target to nearly 9% there. Looking at the 30-year, sitting at 3.77, so just about a few basis points higher than the 10-year. Taking a look at the energy mix, we've got Brent Crude down 1.3%, just falling below the cloud there. New downside targets emerging. We went out as neutral early this morning, and we've seen those downside targets kick in since. So that's now looking more bearish. US nat gas sitting at 255, just really struggling at these. Can't get above 265, and on the daily chart, we are still in a medium-term downtrend. Short-term bullish on the 60-minute chart, although we've got these downside targets on the 1-minute chart. If you're trading US nat gas, that's what you want to be looking at on the 1-minute. Looking at emissions, we're sitting at 9160, just below this, the 60-minute cloud here, looking more bullish on the medium-term daily cloud, but the fact that we've come below the 60-minute cloud is a little bit bearish, and we've got more and more downside targets kicking in. Looks like that 90 level might be quite difficult to hold, and that will be quite interesting. Looking at gas, we're actually up this morning, some 3.8% higher. Looks like TTF is finding support at around 50 euros, and so the market is just looking a little bit better there. And if we look at MBP, we're up 4% there as well, so that 130 mark on MBP just looking like a relatively good support level. Last of all, we take a look at German power, and this is EEX pricing here, and we see here on the power chart, this data coming from Montel, the other data I've been looking at from Thomson Reuters ICOM. Looking at here, we've got these medium-term downside targets, short-term downside targets, but we do have a couple of new upside targets, some 2% higher, but we are teetering along the floor, and we are bearish, of course, on the medium and as the short-term charts. That's it for today. Probably won't get to do charts today tomorrow, but let's see. Until then, happy charting. Bye for now.